one of the most fascinating places on Earth is Jellyfish Lake. Just look at it. There are millions of jellyfish living in a single lake, in a freshwater lake, and the jellyfish there are so friendly, they've forgotten how to sting. Imagine swimming through this magical wonderland. For a snorkeler like me, this is actually a very, very, very interesting item on my bucket list, I guess. Things that I would like to do, once in a lifetime. This is it. Now, Palau, the country where this beautiful place is located in, is of course located right in Micronesia, so between the Philippines and Polynesia. The language there, which we'll discuss today, is Atakoira Belau. And if you, as an Austronesian speaker, hear it or see it written for the very first time, you would think, that is the most unusual Austronesian language I've ever encountered. Let's take a look. Let's count from 1 to 10. So, number 1 is Tang. Orung, the 2. Odei or Odei. Uwang, the 4. Oim or Iyim. I've seen both. If you're a native speaker listening right now, let me know if this is the correct pronunciation, and do correct me, please. Okay, so number 6, Malong. Iwith or with is 7. 8 is Iai or Ai. 9 is Etiu. And 10 is Ma'oth. Okay, so alright, where is Lima? Okay, where is Isa for one? So this is one of the interesting things about this language. So the Palauan language is, of course, a member of the Austronesian language family, and you can see that the vocabulary, the vast majority of the vocabulary is actually very similar to other Austronesian languages. The difference is that it has undergone so many sound changes and it evolved so much over the last few thousand years that it's become almost unrecognizable. But these resemblances are still there if we look deeper, which we'll do over the next few examples. Just before I start talking about the numbers, you have to remember that the numeral system that is currently used in Palauan, of course, actually not currently used, but the traditional form of the counting system, is a lot like Malay. There are different number sets of classifiers used to count different things. So, as an example, if I were counting fish, I would use a different set of numbers from counting human beings, or from counting units of time, or bunches of bananas, and raft or boats. So this is 1 to 5 in the different number systems, and it's a little bit like what we would call in Malay, penjodoh bilangan. So numeral classifiers. Different objects are counted with different sets of numbers. I've only shown numbers 1 to 5, but they go all the way up to 10. I think beyond the number 10, they tend to look more similar. But 1 to 10, especially for humans, for units of time, for animals or inanimate objects, for long objects, for bunches of bananas and rafts, the numbers are all actually quite different. You can see. So tang, terung, tevei, tewang, teim. Let's break this down, okay? There is actually a sort of logic behind it. We take a look at the core sort of basic similarities between the different sets. And what do we discover? Well, the basic number sets, if you take away the prefixes and the suffixes and just look at what they all have in common, most of the numbers is in fact very, very Austronesian. The word for 1 is ta. There is ru for 2. There's a the somewhere for 3. 4 always have a wa. 5 has an im. 6 has a lolem, except for malong, which is for counting. 7 has something like with. 8 always has I. 9 has tiu. And 10 changes, but generally there's something like terui or ui at the end. And these are all from the Proto-Austronesian language. They just evolve and change so much because of probably how isolated Palau has been for so long. So sa in most other languages becomes ta, so the S in Palauan, the S in other Austronesian languages becomes a T in Palauan. So the number 1, isa in Tagalog is of course ta, simply ta, or tang when you're counting. So when you're counting, you can add, if a word ends in a vowel, some words, especially the short monosyllabic words, you can add an at the end, but the root is ta. Alright, 2 is of course ru from dusa or duha, from Proto-Austronesian, so that again, now you see the resemblance. And of course the 3 is from telu, they. So that's another change you have to look at. The T sounds in Proto-Austronesian often become a D or a th sound. The in Palauan. And also the L's become I. So the telu becomes they. The ending is lost. Okay, so empat, of course, sepat is for ua. So it's something like apat. And then you lose the beginning and the ending, and the pa, the p becomes a u, wa. And then of course same with lima. Lima becomes im. All right, and which I think im is also the word for hand, just like in many other Austronesian languages. Lima is im. 6 of course is enam, lolem, that looks a bit more similar. Same thing with the 7, like the 4, the p, anything with the p becomes a w, an u sound, w. So pitu, with. So that's the type of sound changes that we're looking at. I as well, walu. Again, the beginning and the ending were lost, and the L becomes like an I sound, I. And the same again with the shiva, which became tiu. So we see the same thing as number 1. Any kind of s or sh sound becomes a t, t, and then the ending tends to be lost. So shiva, tiwa, tiu, tiu. So that's how it happens. And then also finally the same thing for number 10. Puluk becomes ui, and so you find it in compounds, terui, or things like that. That's where it all comes from, right? So you see, once you look at the changes that these words have gone through, you see that they're actually very, very similar to other Austronesian languages. It's just the pronunciation has changed so much. We'll go through a few more slides and just to show you how the sounds have changed. So this is, of course, a turtle. Now, a turtle in Palauan is well. Again, if you're thinking, okay, this doesn't sound Austronesian at all, it actually does. It comes from penyu in Proto-Austrian, penyu. So again, the P becomes a U, the E gets, well, more or less stays the same. Any N or N sounds, these become L, and the endings tend to be lost. So, well, penyu. The word for water, ralm, that of course is from danum, that we talked about in an earlier video, and it's still found in a lot of Austronesian languages from, even in Madagascar, ranu is the word for water, comes from that root, ralm. And then if we look up into the sky and look at the sun, the sunlight shining in, the word for sun is sils. And that comes from sinar, or sinar. Again, you see another big change. The N sounds always become an L, so the N's in Proto-Austronesian become an L. Any kind of R or R sound, any kind of R type sound also becomes an S. So, sils, sinar. So, okay, alright. And then, of course, one more example, and the final slide for this short video, I'll keep it short today. The word for moon, buil, so you can guess, right, if you've been looking at the previous examples, is of course from bulan. So again, the L's become an I, and then the N's become an L, and then if it's a 2-syllable word, bulan, there's a tendency for the ending, the last vowel to get lost. So, buil, alright, and we have the word for yangeth. Do you know what yangeth means? If you look at what we talked about. Langit, sky, yangeth. Langit, again, L becomes an I. What here is written with an E, but it's more like a ya kind of sound. And then the T, of course, becomes a the, right? And the final word, one for the road, is rail. That, of course, comes from zalan. So in different Austronesian languages, you have jalan in Malay, daan in Tagalog, lalana in Malagasy. That's all. That became rail in Palauan. Alright, I will stop for now, but don't worry about it. I will keep adding new videos over the next few weeks, and I hope any Palauan speakers, please comment on my pronunciation. Share with us any interesting experiences you have if you've interacted with people from the Philippines, Polynesia, other parts of Micronesia, from Malaysia, for example. Let us know how you feel, how do people view your language? And tell us a little bit more about your culture as well. I'm really fascinated with Palau. As I said, I've always wanted to go to Palau, and maybe one of these days I will go to see your famous jellyfish lake. All right, goodbye and bye for now.